card just in general.
Welcome into the Stokastic MMA strategy show as we're getting you ready for Saturday's UFC Paris, an afternoon card here in the U.S. Prelims start 12 p.m. Eastern time, main card 3 p.m. Eastern time. We are sponsored by PrizePicks. I will tell you, I've already been over at PrizePicks. I found a couple of angles over at PrizePicks already for this fight card. Typically, this is when I say I'm now joined by the fighter, Pete Rogers Jr., but Pete's on vacation this week. So Josh is joining me. Josh, man, it's been a while since we've done a show together.
It has been. I have not done a lot of MMA content as of late. I've been playing MMA as aggressively as I possibly can lately, particularly since I went to Dallas with Adam for his live final. That really stoked the flames for me. The worst part is I missed 2 weeks ago. I missed the pay-per-view. I missed the Leon Edwards head kick. I was camping in the woods, and I missed, arguably the most interesting knockout ever in the UFC with a minute to go against the pound-for-pound #1 fighter in the world. So I need to get back on MMA's good graces. The problem is I also have a wedding to go to this Saturday, but luckily for me, this card is in Paris and I can set my lineup before I leave, because if this was your normal 5 or 6 o'clock start, I'd have been SOL again, and that wouldn't have been fun.
Yeah, and with it being an early start, if there is any cancellations on Saturday, we should know pretty early on in the day. By the way, for Live Before Lock, Greg is going to be joining me on Saturday. We'll be here at 10 a.m. Eastern time, so bright and early. So I got to watch my my drink intake on Friday night.
Yes. Yeah, you don't want. This is not a good time to be hungover for the Saturday morning Live Before Lock show.
I've done it. I've
certainly done it for the NFL.
Yeah, I think we've all done it here. Before we get into the fights, got to mention for the people who are not checking out what you do on the process with picking the right contest. And I know the video yesterday, you already started kind of breaking down the right contest to be in, and I was happy to see that one of the contests you talk about is a contest I love, and that's the Haymaker.
Yeah, to me, it's the Haymaker and the contests that end up looking like the Haymaker for different sports. It's the birdie in golf, the four-seamer in baseball. It's the 20 max contest that's either going to be like $3 or $4 to get in. It's, in my opinion, it's sort of the best combination of a prize pool and the softest field that you're going to find, because when you're only putting in 20 lineups into, in this case, a field of like 14,000, it doesn't allow the sharps to corner the market as much as they can in a 150 max. Let me I can pull up my data on this so we could talk about it a little bit further. But the reason I like that is because what you really want to do is you would like to have as many entries as you possibly can, and you don't want to be going up against the Asimos of the world. You don't want them to have the 3% of entries that they have the ability, you normally have the ability to have. So for the Haymaker this week, if you max it, there's 13,872 entries. If you max it, you have 20 of them. That's 0.14% of all of the field. No matter how many sharps are in this contest, there's going to be a lot of dead weight. That's going to make it a bit softer. I also had someone reach out to me yesterday, so shout out to Britt, who watched the process show for it and mentioned that he believes the second big contest, so the second version of the throwdown that comes out, is likely the highest EV contest that we're going to see. A lot of that has to do with the fact that people are basically just running their same 150 lineups from the big contest into the smaller. And you're leaving a lot on the table there, because for the bigger contest, for the mini max, for the throwdown, where you're getting 25,000 plus entries, you need to have some garbage in a lot of your lineups. It's a race to the bottom in a way. You really need to try to minimize your duplications as much as possible. If you like a lineup, it's probably not a great one. You're probably duping with like 100 people and costing yourself money. But if you're making lineups for the big for the big throwdown, and the second one gets released at a third of the size, you're too contrarian for that second contest if you play the same lineups. And we're seeing a lot of overlap between the two. So you really need to pay close attention to, one, just simply the payout structure of the contest, but two, the size of the contest matters a ton. If I'm talking about garbage at the bottom for the minimax, there's 60,000 entries in that contest. You need low-owned fighters to try to improve your stance and to not be duped. It's a lot different if you're getting in, say, the armbar that has 8,300. You could afford to not have to dig out of the bottom in those contests because you don't have as many people that you need to compete with.
Yeah, I mean, the one thing that I do in the haymaker, just me, if there is a fighter I really like, I do consider locking him in. If it's someone that I'm like, you know what, I just look at that ceiling as I think they can get a first round finish. I did a couple weeks ago. It didn't necessarily work out with Terrence McKinney, but there are times where, because like, you know, Alex has talked about this alignment, play against the field, not against yourself. So like in those 20 max, I will tell you, I get crazy with my lineups, and I'm really, when I go in the cruncher, I'm really going deep diving in exposures and really just trying to get as crazy lineups as I can.
Yeah, and I have no problems with going that aggressive, particularly in the haymaker. So the last time that I played was the Chito Vera Dom Cruz card. I had 90% Chito Vera in the haymaker that particular week. I'm very happy with the way that worked out as well. But if it gets to 100, there's nothing that's going to stop me. And luckily, in a contest like this, I don't have to be as ridiculous just grabbing whoever the $6,900 fighter is or the $7K fighter. And that's just sort of my path to victory. You can put together lineups that you actually like in the haymaker.
Well, especially that week, Cheeto was what, 8,500, 8,400, something like that. You know, anytime you can get anytime you get a salary discount on the main event, like we're going to talk about the main event here in a moment, there's no salary discount on Ciryl Gane. I mean, it's just, and I'll tell you right now, you know, looking at our top fighter tool over at Stokastic.com, look at what we got projected for ownership. I'll be well under the field of Ciryl Gane at 9,500. Tuivasa 6,700. Of course, as we do this show, FanDuel salaries are not out. They typically come out sometime Thursday afternoon here. Like, this is a fight that I just don't love for DFS. I mean, Josh, more times than not, we're talking about the main event. It's a priority fight. Like, honestly, the main event, co-main event this week are not priority fights for me. Like I look at Ciryl Gane. He's probably going to keep this fight at range. He's not a guy that's going for a quick fish. Neither is Tuivasa. Even though Tuivasa, you know, is a guy that loves to throw the haymakers, he's just not a guy that goes out there and wins in a minute, 2 minutes. It's typically, if it happens in the first round, it's later on the fight. For me, if Tuivasa is going to pull this off, it's about him getting this fight up against the fence, making it a clinch type fight, and making it a brawl. You tell me this thing's at range, give me Ciryl Gane all day, but I don't love the $9,500 price point on DK.
No, neither do I. And I'm just going to say right now, I grabbed all the data from Stokastic. I've got our top fighters tool that drives a lot of what I'm doing. Mm-hmm. And that's just sort of my baseline. I crunched 10,000 lineups overnight. I got that loaded into my sheet. I've got everything. If Lock were now, I'm ready to go. And I would be like a third of the field on Ciryl Gane. We've got him at 54% ownership. I have 16% right now. I think that he is the more talented fighter. If you think differently, you probably haven't seen a lot of fights. That doesn't mean that Tai Tuivasa can't knock him out, because that is the path to victory. But Ciryl Gane, technically speaking, is just on a completely different level than Tai Tuivasa. That said, I think his efficiency is going to be a detriment here based on that $9,500 price tag. I just think there are much more efficient ways to spend that money than to go to Gane when he's already in half of the lineups.
I was thinking, I think I'll be in the 30% range on Gane. I mean, I still want to get there. And look, I'm going to take sprinkles. I mean, we got Tai Tuivasa at 17%. I think I'll be somewhere near there. You know, typically sometimes in cash games, I love playing cash. Like, I do look at the underdogs in the main event and co-main event as potentially little cash staples, like Leon Edwards, perfect example of that. You know, going into that, I was like, even if Leon loses, I still think that ceiling is kind of, you know, the floor is a good floor to maximize me getting to other places here. But I mean, Tuivasa, look, we all know the power he has in his hand, but you're right. Ciryl Gane, there's a reason he is the number 2 heavyweight in the world right now. He should win this fight, you know, but look, the fan in me, do I want to see Tuivasa get up on that cage and do a shoey? Hell yeah, of course. It's not going to happen. Now he may still do a shoey in a loss though.
If he gets knocked out in 40 seconds, he's not doing anything fun. But there's a path where like he survives this fight, and it's one of those, the heavyweights are like hugging it out after 25 minutes type joints. I don't expect that either, but it's weird. I'm team Shuey for him and not team Shuey for me, because like I have no interest in that, and I'm willing to do a lot of dumb stuff on a day-to-day basis. That one's not it. I have no interest there. I like betting him, honestly. Like, I'm going to have him in DFS because I don't have a choice. That's just how this works. He's 6,700. We've got him projected for 17% ownership. In large field contests, Tuivasa is a guy that I am getting to. We're talking about a mini max in this case. As you work smaller, as you work into like the arm bar, for instance, that has 8,000 people, that's a spot where I'm more likely to get to Ciryl Gane and less likely to get to Tuivasa. But when we get to the main event on Saturday, I will likely be cheering for Tai Tuivasa to win by knockout, and that will help me out. That's way more fun at the very least.
On the betting side, if you want to take a sprinkle on Tai Tuivasa, just go after that TKO KO prop plus 650. I mean, that's just it's a great prop up there. I do like this. Ciryl Gane wins inside the distance minus 150. And then maybe a sprinkle of Ciryl Gane wins via submission, which is plus 350. I think that's a little bit of an interesting prop to play out there, but it's just. I mean, the value on Ciryl Gane was there a couple weeks ago when he was minus 300. That number is way gone.
Yeah, long gone. I mean, and that you should expect that. And I don't think that this is going to move all that much over the next couple of days either. He's just look. Tai Tuivasa is fun, and he is an incredible draw. The gap in skill here is pretty massive, and honestly, like one of the bigger skill gaps we'll see over the course of a year. That's not to say anything negative about Tuivasa, but he is just not simply the same sort of fighter as Ciryl Gane. He's in for some tough sledding. Do I want him to win? Like, yes, but at the same time, I don't know where he goes. I don't know what a Tai Tuivasa win and title shot looks like. Does he even get a title shot?
I think he wins. He's calling out Jon Jones.
And Jon Jones Jones wants that fight immediately.
Okay.
But he'd probably do it tomorrow.
This is what the UFC really wants. The UFC wants Ngannou Jones. That's the fight they really want. Now, the odds, obviously, Ngannou's still recovering from knee surgery, and Jones wants to fight in December. So the reality is that fight's not going to happen. It sounds like there's been some roadblocks hit and a potential Jones Miocic matchup. So it would not surprise me if the winner of this fight faces Jones for the interim title in the main event of the December pay-per-view.
I mean, if Jon Jones is licking his chops at the proposition of facing Tai Tuivasa.
Yes. Yeah. I
totally. If you think if this line is long, it's longer if it's Jones.
Oh, no question about it. And, Samuel brings up the point. Gane's a smart fighter. Doubt he's really going to try to bang with Tuivasa. Completely agree. He's just, to me, he's going to stick at range and go in there. Of course, be sure to smash that thumbs up button. Of course, that really does help us out. Hit that subscribe bell. We got a ton of shows here each and every day. And of course, if you're not a platinum member over at Stokastic.com and you want to get a little peek what's behind the paywall, today's free premium day and tools are MLB player projections. Of course, the strategy show is coming up after us as Greg and I will get you ready for today's MLB slate. Let's move over to the co-main event. You got Robert Whittaker and Martin Vettori, 8,800 for the former champion, in Whittaker, 7,400 for Vettori. I do not like this fight at all when it comes to DFS. I think it's a fight that's going to play out on the feet. I do like the underdog here in Vettori. I do like this number here of what he's getting, especially on the betting side of the equation, approaching a 2-1 betting underdog in this one. Look, Whittaker's had great takedown defense. I think this fight plays out on the feet. Do I think Whittaker's a better striker? Yes. But I just like, if I'm looking to take some dog shots here in betting, it'd be a Martin Vettori, but like in DFS, I just don't think the ceiling's very high on this fight.
Neither do I. I have a very minimal set of exposures going to Whittaker. I don't actually have any Vettori. I like Vettori more from a betting standpoint than a DFS standpoint. This is just a really difficult fight to want to go to for a DFS. Like, I think Whittaker's exceptional. I think Vettori's exceptional. Like, these are two very, very high level fighters. And I can see this fight looking more like a stalemate than anything else, where neither guy is going to get I don't expect either guy to get a finish. And I don't expect there to be so much volume or so many takedowns or knockdowns that I just think it's going to be hard for either guy to accumulate anything. We actually have Marvin Vettori with a 14% chance of being a top 6 fighter compared to 24% ownership. To me, that is the most over-owned guy on the card, and that's why he's showing up in nothing for me. Now, can he win? That's why I would prefer to bet on him based on that data than I would rather have him in a DFS lineup. Even for Whittaker, who I actually think I'm slightly underrepresented to, I'm still just neutral to the field. Most of that is just simply that 8,800, I think, is a price tag that works pretty well for him. But I really want to watch this fight. I don't expect it to matter much for DFS.
To me, the problem with the 8,800 price point for Robert Whittaker is, okay, I'm trying to get to 650, 700 points on DraftKings. Okay, what is my path to Robert Whittaker getting 100 plus points? I got to get either at least one knockdown, at least a takedown. And I just don't see either one of those happening here. You mentioned about the fact of this fight likely going to go to distance. Marvin Vettori has gone the distance in 10 of his last 11 fights. And you talk about his only stoppage victories in the UFC, Albert Uda and Carl Roberson. Both of those were first round submissions. Those guys are, they're not on the level of Robert Whittaker. I mean,
slightly different than Whittaker.
Yeah, I mean, I want to see where ownership goes. If you tell me that ownership on Robert Whittaker gets under 25%, 23%, then I might take some sprinkles, but I don't love the ceiling beginning over 100 points, which right now we have him at 24% chance of going over 100 points. That's why for me, this is primarily going to be a pass for me in terms of DFS. But look, if you want to get there because you're looking at some other fights, I'm not going to, rail on you about it, but it's just not a place I want to get to.
I don't understand the point of this fight. Like what does the winner get out of this?
They're both are the biggest Alice Bahia fans.
They really are, which, could happen, obviously. I look at this fight and I think that both of these guys should be facing 2 other people so that one of them could potentially lose and become an actual challenger. Because if this breaks if Adesanya wins, this fight becomes totally meaningless and only hurts the loser. It doesn't really help the winner at all. Just weird matchmaking. I don't totally get it. I expected Whittaker to go up to 185.
Well, Whittaker's talked about going to 205.
205 rather. Sorry,
yeah, he did an interview with Submission Radio guys, and he talked about that. He said his only concern about it. He said look, I don't want to go 205 and just be a fat light heavyweight. He goes, I want to get there the right way. He goes, but what does concern me is I would just be at a height disadvantage. And he goes, that's the one concern. I mean, he's looking at it the right way as opposed to not having to cut the weight there. But yeah, but look, if Izzy defends his title there in November, it wouldn't surprise me if he vacates the 185-pound belt and moves up to 205.
It wouldn't surprise me either. It would make a lot more sense, and then they could just run back Whittaker Vettori for the title.
Yeah, I mean, it's both these guys are just in a awful position there. Of course, I appreciate everyone tuning in here for the strategy show. If you're not a Stokastic Plus member, which why are you not? We got a great offer for you right now. Get 50% off your first week of any weekly pass. So you want to knock in that MMA weekly pass, get 50% off your first week. This is for new users only. You got to use that promo code MMA Strategy Show. Josh was talking about that top fire tool. It's the tool that I use each and every week. Literally, when you're a member, you log in the site, you can export it right to Excel. And then I start kind of sorting it the way that I want to sort it a little bit. But to me, obviously ownership is the thing that I'm looking at, but that top 6% is the other big thing that I'm looking at top fire tool. When you're creating multiple lineups, it's a tremendous asset.
It's everything for me. It's the first thing that I paste into my Excel model. It's the most important tool for me. Most of our top whatever tools are the tools that I go straight to. Top pitchers, top stacks in baseball, top fighters here, top golfers. Those are the tools that I'm going to because the advanced analytics that we have now it's so much more important than just simply looking at a fantasy point projection.
And we've got a ton of stuff coming for the NFL. NFL starting next week. I'll be in Dallas next Saturday. So I'm not sure if I'll be here for Live for Lux. It's gonna depend on what time I arrive in Dallas. But
okay,
yeah, we play Sunday night next week. So yeah, that'll be a late night for me. So that'll be getting back to Tampa like 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning on Monday morning.
No, thank you. No, thank you.
Luckily,
although I can say I have had a good night in Dallas on the late night, so enjoy that.
I can sleep on the airplane. That's not a problem. Well, we leave right after the game's over. I mean, we're straight to the airport. We're on that charter flight. We're right back in Tampa. So
that's fair. That's fair.
But I can sleep. I can sleep on a plane. Give me a window seat. I'm good.
I'm the good. Same way. I just want to curl up, put my head to the side, stuff it into like a hoodie or something. I'll bring a sleep mask depending on how long the flight's going to be. It's a good time. I don't mind it at all.
Yeah, of course. I get that Germany flight in a couple months from now. So that it's like 11 hours.
Yeah, that one I don't want. That one I don't want.
Yeah, I will definitely be sleeping that whole flight. No doubt about it. Let's move over to the next matchup. We got Alessio Di Chirico taking on Roman Kopylov. Kopylov is 8,200 for Alessio Di Chirico. Kopylov really has been a major disappointment since coming over to the UFC. He's now 0-2. In the UFC, losing to Carl Roberson and Albert Duraev. It was a 3rd round submission loss against Carl Roberson and then a decision loss against Duraev. Prior to signing with the UFC, and a lot of people were high on this guy. 7 of his 8 fights wins were via stoppage. You look at the other side, Jericho. First fight in over a year, which was a 17-second knockout against Abdul Razik Al Hassan. He's 1-4 in his last 5. That only win was a first round win against Joaquin Buckley. 3 of his 4 losses are via decision. And we mentioned about that top fire tool. If you look at that top fire tool, if you're looking for leverage, this is the fight to look at.
I don't have much of this one. If you just look at top 6 odds and compare it to every other fight on the card, this is the least likely fight to produce a top 6 scoring fighter. That's not very good. We're really falling off from a talent perspective after talking Whittaker Vettori. We're going in a very different direction. I am underweight to Di Chirico right now. I basically don't have anything of value here. This is the second lowest exposed fight that I had. No, actually, it has moved. It is the lowest exposed fight that I have behind Whittaker Vettori. I don't really have much else to say here. We're talking top 6 odds at 19% and 17%. That's the only fight on the card with both people under 20. I just don't like it. And based on every piece of data that we have, literally anything could happen and I would believe it, except for talent. That I wouldn't believe them to be skilled in their output.
From the fight aspect, the angle that could be very beneficial from a DFS perspective is I do wonder if Di Chirico will go the takedown route. I think there is a path there. That to me would be the reason I would want to get to Di Chirico, is just potentially that takedown. But yeah, I'm like you. This is a fight that I'll be making sure minimum exposure on this one.
Yeah, I don't. Let's see. What's my actual total? 25% of the entire 600% that you get. So not a lot going on here.
Literally tomorrow morning is usually the morning that I put in my pro plays and I'm doing all that. And literally what I do is I have the spreadsheet. I print the spreadsheet out and then I've got like 4 different highlighter colors. And then basically I'm like, okay, these are the priority fights. You know, this is the fights I'm like, hey, cruncher, you know, very minimum. You know, sometimes I'll set groups, you know, so I mean, like, look, if people saw my spreadsheet, they go, dude, how do you read this stuff?
I know the feeling because the amount of like different highlights and random columns and stuff that I have, if people saw it, they'd be like, can I get that? And I'd be like, you could have it. It's going to get you nowhere because this stuff is so random and haphazard, but I know what I'm looking at. And that's really all that matters.
Oh, it's like, well, I was watching a process video yesterday and you lost one of your tabs on Excel. I'm like, yeah, I can relate to that. That is a relatable moment. Like, where the hell did that tab go?
It wasn't fun. And then I realized I just dragged it over. See, I've got a wonky mouse right now. I actually changed to a different mouse while we were on this show. It's been really weird lately. So I think that was part of my problem. yesterday
Yeah.
at least.
Yeah. But Chirico, Kopylov, really just a fight that we get to. And the projections that we have are as low on both sides. Next up, there are some underdogs I do like. And this is one of those underdog situations. John Makdessi taking on Nasrat Haqparast. Haqparast, a minus 230 betting favorite. When you look over on the DraftKings side of the equation, 8,700 for Nasrat Haqparast, 7,500 for John Makdessi. John Makdessi, it's been a while since we've seen him, has not fought in 17 months, April of 2021. He is 4-1 in his last 5. All those fights have gone the distance. The last time John Makdessi won a fight via stoppage, April 25th, 2015, against Shane Campbell. Then you look at the Errens, like Haqparast, he's another one of these guys that he came in the UFC, and there was a point where we all thought that, hey, man, this guy could be a potential title challenger. He loses to Drew Dober. It just really has never lived up to that hype. This fight was supposed to take place back in February. That ultimately did not happen. Haqparast, 7 of his 9 fights have gone distance. Look, this is a fight that's likely to go in 15 minutes. But this is an underdog shot that I want to take in Makdessi.
I was surprised. I thought that Makdessi would grade out a little bit better for me, and he just didn't. I am getting to Haqparast a bit. We have him projected for 28% chance of being a top 6 fighter, 26% ownership. So a little bit of positive there in relationship from that top 6% to ownership. Makdessi slightly behind, 13% in top 6, 14% in ownership. I don't have a ton that I like. I don't have a lot of confidence in Makdessi, although for some reason, the moment that I saw this fight, I saw Makdessi by KO, and I immediately flipped that out of my head and thought, like, well, that's not going to be what the actual outcome is. Makdessi is, if I pull up the odds, I don't know if you said them before. Do we have them here? Yeah, plus 650 to win by TKO or KO. That's basically the same odds of Tai Tuivasa winning by TKO or KO. Does that seem crazy to you? Because one of those guys is 7,500, the other is 6,700.
Yeah, well, like if you look at our top fighter tool, we've got the KO win percentage. Tai Tuivasa, 12%.
Yeah.
Makdessi, 10%. Which is understandable. Those are both, I mean, it's just Makdessi just hasn't done it, but the guy cracks. I mean, there is and there is a little bit of history between these two guys, both TriStar. If you look at Makdessi's social media, let's just say he's a little fired up for this matchup.
He is indeed. I just don't know if it's going to matter for him. What's his career look like? Where's he going from this point? Hasn't been in the cage in 18 months. If this goes wrong, he's got 1 win in the past 2.5 years. He doesn't seem long for the UFC any longer. He's not young. He's 37 years old. I can say that as a 37-year-old man.
Look, I'll use the G word here, gatekeeper.
Yeah.
I think he's at that point where he's a guy the UFC is going to use as to potentially showcase someone else.
It's fair.
But I mean, look, it's a fight that I expect to go 15 minutes, but I don't mind, taking some stabs on Makdessi. I don't think I'm going to get to Haqparast here at all. I will tell you, I mentioned about over on PrizePicks, there was some ones that I do like here. I actually do like the under 85.5 fantasy score for Haqparast. Just not a volume puncher. I just don't think he's going to get that number even in a win. That's one of those numbers I'll sit there. I'll tell you another one. We'll talk more about PrizePicks in a little bit. Robert Whittaker, I like the over 16.5 significant strikes over there. There's 4 different PrizePicks plays that really have stuck out to me, but we'll talk more about PrizePicks here in a little bit. But don't love this fight for GPPs, but I'll get a sprinkle of it on both sides.
I don't love it either. I would like to, when we get closer to Saturday, have a bit of a share or some shares of Makdessi, because I don't think the 0 that I have right now is totally correct, just given salary and given the way that I think I think he is when he wins, I think he can win in fashion that will pay off a $7,500 salary. So I don't love the data just giving me 0 right out of the gate, but that's something I could pretty easily manipulate and get to, something in that 10% range. That doesn't really change my wholesale portfolio.
Next up, we got a matchup of two guys making their UFC debuts. Both of them taking this fight on about a month's notice here. You got William Gomis minus 220 taking on Jourdain. Errens at plus 180. This is the 8,600, 7,600 matchup. William Gomis, he is trained by Fernando Lopez, of course, who is the head trainer for Cyril Gane, out of Paris, France. So I think we both know why he's been put on this fight card. He's a young, 25 years old. He's a green fighter, does have some fast hands. This is one of those fights where, majority of his wins have come via stoppage, but when I've got two guys making their UFC debut, I'm not taking a big stand on either one of these guys. I'll be well under the field of what we're projecting on William Gomis. I don't, we're projecting him at 40%. I'll probably be maybe in the 20 to 25% range on him. It's just a fight that it's a young fighter, green fighter, and I'm not sure what to expect.
So I'm matching the top 6 odds on Gomis here, and I'm even heavier on Errens. This is a fight where I expect a finish, and I don't have a great feel on which side that's going to be coming from. I did a little bit of research on this one earlier because I did not really recognize either one of these names. So this was one of the first spots that I had to pretty aggressively dig in. I'm interested to see any of the grappling from Errens. I assumed just looking at him and looking at his profile that it was just straight striking, and that wasn't necessarily the case. So I have 21% Errens. He is 13% owned. This is one of the bigger gaps. We've got 17% odds of being a top 6 fighter. So I like that sort of positive leverage mark there for Errens. Gomis is slightly over-owned, 37% top 6, 40% in ownership. But I think that price tag works because there are a couple guys around him that don't have the same sort of finishing odds. Like if we look at Whittaker at 8,800, 21% KO. Haqparast, 26% KO. Figlak at 8,500. So we're going $100 lower here. 19% odds of the KO. Gomis, 41%. He's existing in this salary tier with odds of finishing that are significantly higher than the guys around him. And that's why I'm still able to get there, even though I think he might be slightly over-owned.
I like Figlak's abilities right now where he's at, as opposed to Gomes. I mean, look, Gomes may end up being something, but to me, it's just when you watch him on film, there are some mistakes that you see that people can't take advantage of. These are the fights that scare the crap out of me. Two guys make their debut, both on short notice. It just scares the crap out of me.
So it scares the crap out of me in a good way. I'm willing to just sort of push my chips in. I have 58% of this fight in total. So I want some sort of finish. I don't really care which one it is. In theory, I want it to be Gomis just because I have more. But at the same time, an Errens big win at 21% ownership will put me in a really nice spot moving forward. And then sort of unlock. When you can get the underdogs right, it makes it really fun to be able to cheer for favorites later.
Yeah. That's why I don't like playing the first fight of the night, because you lose that fight, it just really just kills the rest of your,
It looks like I'm playing that first fight of the night, if this first fight of the night is correct, and I'm not happy about it either.
Oh, that's Haqparast. That's the first fight of the night. Ugh.
Yeah, great. Lucky me. Yeah. I'm heavily exposed there. We'll get to it.
Yeah. In the hashtag will watch category, Charles Jourdain, Nathaniel Wood. This has got banger written all over. Charles Jourdain is a slight favorite in this one, 8,400, 7,800 for Nathaniel Wood. Both these guys fought less than 2 months ago. Jourdain had that decision loss against Shane Burgos. Nathaniel Wood got the decision win there against Charles Rosa. That was the first time that Nathaniel Wood stepped up to the 145-pound division. From a frame aspect of, he is, a little shorter for this division, but, muscular-wise, he's there. He's just not cutting a ton of weight anymore to fight at 135 pounds. Someone I saw over our Discord chat a little earlier was asking about stacking this fight. If you tell me Nathaniel Wood goes the takedown route, which I do believe is the smart fight IQ thing to do in this one, I don't mind that theory in cash. I don't know if I want to get there in GPP. I understand why someone would want to stack it. You need a ton of volume. I do like the Charles Jourdain significant strike number over PrizePicks, which is 70.5. I think this fight's going 15 minutes. And you look at especially his recent history when he's gone 3 rounds, he's landed over 160 strikes. I do give a slight edge to Charles Jourdain in this one, but Nathaniel Wood to me is a sneaky GPP play because of the takedown upside.
This is the fight that I have more exposure to than any other fight on the card. Jourdain is my highest exposed fighter at this moment, 55%. We've got him with a 32% chance of being a top 6 fighter, 29% ownership. We actually have Wood slightly more owned, but I'm still getting to Wood. I'm with the field here. The interesting piece for Wood is of all the fighters that are 7,900 or below, so we're talking the 7Ks plus Perez and Tuivasa, Wood is the only one with KO odds that cross the 20% barrier. The only one other than Quiones with a 20% or higher top 6 odds. You're going to see that at 7,800. That's just sort of how the salaries work with relationship to the betting odds. But I think Wood is in a great spot. I expect a ton of activity in this fight. This is the one that I'm cornering the market on. I'll take the upset for Wood, but right now, Jourdain is my number 1 exposed fighter because 8,400 is a price tag where I think he's very likely to be optimal if this breaks correctly.
Now, Nathaniel Wood's one of 5 fighters under 8K that I have highlighted as guys that I want to get to, want to take chances hard. Now, there's some fighters that are under that 8K that I don't necessarily love, like a Martin Vettori is one of those, John Makdessi, another one. And when I'm saying I don't love, it's from a GPP ceiling upside of getting over 100 plus points. But like I look at someone like Nathaniel Wood, we're going to talk about Dustin Stoltzfus here in the next matchup. Joaquin Buckley is another one because of the finishing upside that those guys have. Nathaniel Wood is definitely somebody I want to get to, and this will be a priority fight for me.
I want to have all of it. I'm hoping somehow that like the Wood ownership goes down a little bit as we get closer to lock, and then I could feel like I'm getting over on it a little bit more. But for right now, I have more of this fight by a mile. 83% total exposure to this fight. So only 17% of my lineups don't have someone from this fight. Next closest fight here is the fight that we're going to talk about next with Stoltzfus at 65%. So I've got 18% more of this fight than I have of anything else.
So basically what you're telling me is that this fight isn't optimal. You're just not watching the rest of the card?
I probably won't see a ton if this one doesn't go the way that I needed to, which is a quick finish.
We have all been there. We have all been there. Of course, we are sponsored by PrizePicks. Of course, if you've not signed up over PrizePicks, sign up right now at PrizePicks.com. Use that promo code AWESOME. They got an instant first match deposit of up to $100. I mentioned there are some props over there that have stuck out to me. I mentioned about that Nasrat Haqparast fantasy score. I like the under 85.5. I like the over 70.5 significant strikes on Charles Jourdain. I'm thinking this fight's going to go 15 minutes. So I think he should easily be able to hit that number. I do like the over 60.5 significant strikes on Robert Whittaker. And the other one that is a interesting one play, not a strong lean on this one, is the Mihail Figlak 2 takedowns. I like the over there. I think he can go the takedown route there. So there are some interesting angles. And I talk about this on PrizePicks all the time. If you like something on Thursday, go make that prop bet right now. Yeah. Do not wait till Saturday, because one of the things that I do is on Saturday morning, I'll go over to PrizePicks and I'm just looking at what ones have changed. And usually the ones that are mispriced get changed pretty quickly.
And make sure you're using OddsShopper as well to check out some of this when you're at PrizePicks. I'm talking PrizePicks in general. It might not necessarily be as active for you from an MMA standpoint, but in these situations where you can cross-reference picks from OddsShopper to PrizePicks, there's going to be juice on OddsShopper. There's not juice on PrizePicks. So if you find a prop that's like minus 170 on one of those sides, and at PrizePicks, there is no minus 170. It's 50-50 on both sides. So you can use OddsShopper, another one of our tools, hand in hand with PrizePicks. And it's not going to be the same for MMA because we're not digging that in depth into player props for UFC, but I'm sure that's coming down the line. It just hasn't been the priority yet. But for everything else that we're offering from PrizePicks, OddsShopper will help you out as well.
You talk about cross sports entries that you can do over PrizePicks. Matt Jesse does a tremendous job with our college football coverage.
Yeah,
I know those guys have been cranking out coverage over the last couple of days. Of course, college football really getting kicked off here tonight. So, you can cross-reference there some UFC on Saturday, college football on Saturday, and of course, everything else that's going on PrizePicks. So use that promo code AWESEMO. Sign up right now over at PrizePicks.com. You can download their app in the App Store. And when you use that promo code AWESEMO, they got instant first match deposit of up to $100. Let's move over to the next one. We got Stoltzfus and Magomedov. Magomedov, he is the favorite of this one, 8,900, 7,300 here for Dustin Stoltzfus. And look, Dustin Stoltzfus is, not a great fighter. I'm not going to sit here and say he is here. This is the first fight in nearly 2 years for Magomed. If you don't take a deep dive in this, you would think he's Russian. No, he's German. So his last fight was in KSW back in 2020. He's had 3 canceled fights in the UFC over the last 2 years. He's pulled out 2 of those fights. He did compete back in the PFL in 2018. Now, he is a finisher. 19 of his 24 wins come via stoppage. Stoltzfus' second fight in less than 2 months, had a nice performance there against the White Grant back in July. That did snap a 3-fight losing streak. He's 1-3 in the UFC. I don't mind taking some sprinkles here on Stoltzfus, potentially a submission here.
I have more Stoltzfus than I care to admit at this moment, particularly for a +2 something underdog. For him to win inside distance, those lines don't look all that tasty either. But we have this as the third most likely fight to have a top 6 fighter behind the main event, and another fight that we have not gotten to yet. But this one I have heavy exposure to again, much like the previous fight that was 4th in top 6 odds in the aggregate. This one is 3rd, and I'm over that ownership metric. So I'm heavily exposed to Stoltzfus at this point. We'll just say in the 30s, which is an amount of a $7,300 fighter that you don't really get excited for. This is one of those that you watch it, and when it breaks right, you're like, okay, I've got 50 lineups that are still alive. Otherwise, you got 50 lineups that are probably dead. Magomedov on the other side, I'm still getting to because I love the odds, 40% chance of being a top 6 fighter, 40% ownership. It's neutral there. I don't mind the price tag all that much, but I am a little lighter, 27% exposure, but all told, the second most exposed fight for me on the card.
It's one of those things where I look at ownership and I'm always looking at that 89, 88 and up fighters. And I'm saying, where am I going to get some leverage? There is a chance to get some leverage. If you want to get away from Gane and you want to get away from Magomedov, there is some leverage spots. Now, I mean, obviously Magomedov could go out there and get a first round stoppage and, he's going to be optimal with that price tag.
Absolutely. This is another spot where you can see the clear line in the sand and why that ownership is jumping up. Haqparast, again, 28% top 6. Whittaker, 28% top 6. That's 87, 8,800. You get to 8,900, and it's 40 for Magomedov. We're taking a step up in tier in terms of odds of being a high scorer, and you're seeing that come back with the ownership. So we will get to another fighter that I think is slightly better at $100 more pretty shortly. I can't get away from Magomedov there. I think his ownership is completely appropriate. That doesn't mean I have to be there then.
Okay. One of our listeners just informed me of something. Okay. I did not know there are disc golf props on PrizePicks.
Oh yeah.
Tyler's shaking his head like, how'd you not know
pretty
this?
Regularly. Yeah,
no, I would have made fun of that sentence a year ago, and now I'm just like, yeah, it doesn't surprise me. Our chat's betting on PrizePicks disc golf lines. I'm not shocked at all.
Get yourself some Paul Macbeth, guys.
Yeah, the comment was, if you didn't play disc golf PrizePicks the last couple of days, you missed out on free money. PrizePicks finally adjusted the stroke counts correctly.
I didn't know. I had not been paying attention to it. I do watch it from time to time on YouTube. It's a pretty good. It's a good product. It's a fun sport, that's for sure. I love that it's on PrizePicks though. That and Highlight being on here is just amazing to me.
Look, I'm aware of disc golf. I had no idea people are gambling on this now. I should be surprised. I should not be surprised.
People gamble on anything.
Seriously, we will gamble on anything. Anything. You name it, they put a line out there, people will gamble on it. I was literally having the conversation with my dad like 2 weeks ago as he was going to Vegas. I'm like, Dad, you can live bet on literally anything in the game at this point.
And just wait for like a year or two from now when it's like truly it's going to feel like we're in England and you can legitimately just walk into any corner store and bet on something incredible. Like when we get all of these states online and it's just everything's out there. I can't wait. Stupid North Carolina.
Stupid Florida. We had gambling for like a month and then it got shut down.
I'm not surprised in North Carolina because we are behind the 8 ball in most things. I hate that we missed it by a vote. Florida, on the other hand, which is basically open season for anything that you want to do in the world at all times. Really weird to me that they don't want to take in like additional sports. But like, do they think that the entire state is so corrupt that they can't do it?
No, the reason was so DeSantis did a deal with the Seminole tribe.
Yeah.
And they had exclusive rights to it. And then so some South Florida sports books, I also believe Barstool got involved in it as well. And it got to the Supreme Court and the Supreme Court said, yeah, we got to put a hold on this. So it's just going through the courts now.
It's incredible. It's incredible. So like eventually it ends with what? A percentage of the take is going to go to the tribal casinos again. That's the only way that it's going to work out, right? They're not going to take nothing.
Yeah, who knows?
Again.
Like, look, it's big business. Let's just be honest about it. It's big business.
It is.
There's so much. There's so much money sitting out there. We all know it. Let's move over to the next matchup. We have a guy who is literally cut from the UFC, but we're going to France. We need you on this card. Fares Ziam is a underdog here, plus 170 on the betting lines. Mihail Figlak minus 220 here. As you look over on the DraftKings side of the equation, 8,500 for Figlak. Ziam is 7,700 here. Figlak comes over from Cage Warriors. Combo thrower, does like the body lock takedown. Takedowns, I think, are our position here. He's a guy that I will be targeting because of the takedown upside.
So this is a tough spot for me. This one doesn't look good in our top stack tool. This is the second least likely to have a top 6 fighter. Figlak is 27% to be top 6, 31% ownership. So while I am getting to him, that's not the worst spread in the world. I am lighter than that 31% mark. I'm odd. I don't want to say that I'm heavy on the opposite side. I do have 13%. This is a spot where we are showing top 6 odds to be slightly higher than ownership. 14% for Ziam, 9% ownership. That's an interesting gap if you're looking to pay and get a little bit of an underdog, but 10% odds of a KO is not exactly exciting. 14% chance of being a top 6 fighter. Again, not very exciting. That is not in line with salary. That is the 5th lowest mark, but not the 5th lowest salary. So I have 29% total exposure to this fight. That number is below the aggregate ownership for the fight. And like I said, with it being second from the bottom, it's a fight that I'm low on. The 4 fights that are the lowest odds of having a top 6 fighter are my 4 lowest by a mile, and I'm under the ownership marks on all 4.
Yeah, no, I do not agree with you all. Of course, we got about 10 minutes here from MLB Strategy Show, so we'll kind of get through these fights as quick as we possibly can here.
They can wait. The early MLB slate sucks.
Got Imavov and Buckley here. Imavov 9,000, 7,200 for Joaquin Buckley. You look at Imavov, he's won back-to-back fights via second round submission. 2 of his 3 pro losses are via decision. He has not fought since November of last year. Was supposed to fight back in April against Kevin Gastelum. That one did not come together. Joaquin Buckley is 5-2 in the UFC. I think there are some question marks about the durability of his chin here. He's a guy I don't mind getting to as a under 7,400 and under fighter just because of the KO upside.
I thought that that's where I would be. I thought he was going to look a lot like John Makdessi for me in that I thought that there was going to be more KO upside than I was originally anticipating. I'm getting the exact opposite in this fight. We've got 38% odds of top 6 on Imavov and 32% ownership. That is the 3rd biggest gap, only behind Egger and, oddly enough, Whittaker. I'm very heavily exposed to Imavov. 47%. In fact, it's the 3rd highest exposed fighter that I have. I didn't get to Buckley. 14% top 6, 17% ownership. There are 4 fighters that I'm not getting to: Vettori, Makdessi, Buckley, and then we'll get to Perez in a little bit. Everything else, so like basically I'm taking stands on 4 fights in that if the other person wins, like I'm just in real big trouble. The rest of it is going to be relatively spread out, but at 9K, given that top 6 odds, given that ownership right now, I mean 45% KO odds, given the fact that we're showing 32% ownership, if our ownership number is right, I think this might be the best play on the slate.
Yeah, Imavov's just one of those guys. I just feel like I just don't trust him when it comes to getting that 100+ points. But this may be one of those positions to get to. But it just you talk about punt plays. I don't mind getting the Buckley because of it. Yeah. Next up, you got Saint Denis and Miranda. Saint Denis 9,100, 7,100 here for Miranda. Miranda making his UFC debut here, and one of the notes I have written down, outside of the fact that he trains at MMA Masters down in South Florida, does have submission upside. I wrote, not the greatest strength of schedule. And to literally where Tapology has literally marked one of the promotions he fought for as shady matchmaking.
Yeah, evidently Face the Danger is not the most reputable promotion in the world. They're just
apparently it's
nonsense.
It's the U.S. version of Gladiator Challenge, essentially, I guess what it's come down to. He comes off a submission win. The opponent in that fight was 5-5 at the time of that fight. Saint Denis coming off a win here in his second UFC fight after taking a short-nosed fight against Zielecki, and all his wins via stoppage. To me, this is it's me taking Saint Denis or I'm passing on the fight.
So this is the fight based on our top 6 odds that has the second highest chance of having a top 6 fighter. The only fight that's ahead of that is the main event. So I have all of this fight. I have Saint Denis, but I don't have it up to the 38% that we're projecting. He is 42% to be top 6. So I'm actually a little unhappy that I don't have more. And that is a spot where I would manually adjust up slightly because I think that he's underrepresented for me. At the same side, I do have Miranda, 15% ownership, 14% top 6 odds. I just like the idea of targeting this fight because of how high it ranks in our top 6 odds. So I have Miranda around 30%. I assume I need a flash submission. Doesn't strike me as a spot where he's going to be winning via strikes. Most of his record is probably phony, or at least his opponents were semi-phony. I don't know what to make of this. I hate his stupid mustache, but he will be a very important $7,100 fighter for me. One of the Stoltzfus, Miranda, Tuivasa, they are the 3 low-dollar fighters that I have my stands on. Perez, Buckley, Vettori, Makdessi, those are the guys that I didn't. So I drew my line in the sand. I need those zeros to not be first-round knockouts.
Anytime I go on Tapology and I start seeing a questionable strength of schedule, it scares me. It just scares me. It's like, were you doing that on purpose? Like there are people that have this mindset of taking a boxing route of trying to basically essentially fight no one before you have to get to the UFC. But just a route I did not want to go. Next up, we got Taha and Quinones. Taha, the favorite in this one. He's 8,300, 7,900 for Quinones. Quinones got into the UFC last year with his win on Dana White's Contender Series. Was supposed to fight last month, but the fight got scratched because of visa issues for him. Taha, the other side, 1-3, 1 no contest in the UFC. The no contest was initially a submission win for him. However, he failed his post-fight drug test for a diuretic. All of his UFC losses via decision. Look, I think Taha is the better fighter in this one, but this is also another fight that I'll have limited exposure on.
I have one side of this fight, not that I'm really excited about it, that's for sure. I have a bit more Taha. I do have a little bit of exposure to Quinones, but 28% odds of being a top 6 fighter for Taha, 24% ownership. That sort of leverage is always going to ride out for me. And it's in a spot where I like getting to what I think is a slightly underrepresented fighter, because at 8,300, if it breaks correctly, you're pretty close to locked in there. That is the salary where, based on his KO odds in relationship to Quinones' odds, based on his top 6 odds in relationship to his ownership, I think there's a little bit of value that could be squeezed out at 8,300. That said, at 7,900, I think Quinones is actually live here. I did get to 16%. So this is another one of those fights where I'm kind of cheering for both sides. Taha would be the actual victory that I want because I have a significant, sizable exposure there. And with Quinones at 7,900, when that goes right, I'm probably in some trouble if I'm light. So I am cheering for Taha here, but I am exposed to both sides of this. 63% aggregate exposure, my third most exposed fight of anything on the card.
The opening fight of the night, female matchup, which, by the way, is at 145 pounds. These are both typically bantamweight fighters. This fight is at 145 pounds. Stephanie Egger taking on Aylin Perez. Perez making her UFC debut. She's 6,900, 9,300 for Stephanie Egger. You may remember Stephanie Egger a month ago. She was in the first fight of the night, and she tapped, but didn't admit to it. Unfortunately for her, one of the judges, Ron McCarthy, was right there and saw the tap. And the referee in that job did exactly what he's supposed to do, pulls everyone. And Ron McCarthy, who was literally right there, goes, yeah, she tapped. And then once she realized, like, oh, yeah, I did tap. She didn't want to admit it at first. This is one of those ones. Armbar guard is absolutely completely live in this one. Stephanie Egger should win. But if Perez can get this fight to the ground in some form, armbar from guard is definitely live.
I'm very curious to see what the line does as we get closer to Saturday. We have this 41% chance of being a top 6 fighter for Stephanie Egger, 31% ownership. This is the biggest gap between top 6 odds and ownership on the card right now. This could squeeze. We will see where we get to by the time we get to Saturday. But looking at that data, Stephanie Egger should be the fighter that you're getting to most in GPPs. If this holds right now, if we're going into the lock right now, that's the fighter that you should be getting to more than it. I don't like it. I promise you that. I have 54% right now. Makes me sick. Don't really want to go this direction at all. But 41% top 6 to 31% ownership is the best GPP play you can find. I have one share of Perez.
God. Oh, man. I can't do it. I can't do it, bro.
I don't blame you.
It.
I don't blame you. Would you rather have Stephanie Egger or Cyril Gane?
That $200 allowed me to get to somebody else, though.
It does. It does.
That $200 could, in terms of line construction. I mean, it's just at the end of the day, we're talking about low-level UFC women's fight here, and that thing is what always concerns me when we're talking about those type of fights. Of course, here at the show, me and Pete, we always give our straight-up fight picks. I don't know if you want to give your picks or not, but here's my straight-up fight picks. I'll go Cyril Gane. I'm going to go with the upset Martin Vettori. Let's go to Chirico. Give me the upset in John Makdessi. I'll go William Gomis, Charles Jourdain. I'm going to take Magomedov from a straight-up pick perspective. Figlak, Imavov, Saint Denis, Taha, and Egger. Two underdogs there, not too many.
Cyril Gane for sure. If I don't have any problem going to Vettori here, I think this fight is a little bit closer than the line implies, especially given the fact that of the length of this fight. I'll go Kopylov. I'll go Haqparast. I'll go Gomis. I'll go Wood over Jourdain. Magomedov for sure. Figlak for sure. for sure. Saint Denis for sure. Taha and Egger.
Get a super chat here from Samuel, and then we'll wrap things up here. Top 2 cash for me, it would be Cyril Gane and Mihail Figlak.
That's gonna be Cyril Gane, absolutely. And then, I mean, the way that this looks right now, probably Gomis at 8,600, second highest owned fighter right now. But you get, everybody else that's owned similarly. Magomedov is $300 more expensive. Saint Denis $500 more expensive. So I would say Gane and Gomis right now.
Top 2 GPPs for me, I'm going to go Charles Jourdain, and not to sound like a broken record, Figlak.
Egger right now, based on what we have right now, Stephanie Egger has to be number 1 for me, just based on that lack of ownership. If we want to go towards something more along the lines of an underdog, I would lean probably like 8K Kopylov, honestly, just from a GPP perspective, a place where ownership isn't going.
Yeah. Favorite, let's see here, underdogs in terms of that. Underdogs to me, in terms of GPPs, Nathaniel Wood. And I'll go for a second one. I will go Jarno Errens.
I've got 3 low dollar fighters in the 30% ownership range. That's Stoltzfus, Miranda, and Tuivasa.
Favorite inside distance. I'm just going to we usually just point out fights here. To me, the main event, Gane Tuivasa. I don't expect that to go 25 minutes. Magomedov and Stoltzfus would be my other one that I would point to.
I will defer to you on this one. Not something that I've looked at.
Favorite 3-play parlays. I would look at Gane inside the distance, even though I don't really love putting props in parlays, but other ones that I would look at, I would look at the under 1.5 on Magomedov and Stoltzfus, and then I would look at a Saint Denis wins on the money line. Top leverage plays. Don't love to get here to leverage play, but man, the ownership right now is showing it to me is the Kopylov to Chirico fight.
Stoltzfus for me, I like the bottom end with top 6 odds in relationship to ownership. But once again, I got to say, Stephanie Egger, even though she is 31% owned, we have top 6 odds that are significantly higher, and that plays a lot for me.
Yeah, I mean, and looking at top optimal plays, I mean, look, I don't feel good about saying Stephanie Egger, but you got to look there. And then, and then I think it's the winner, Jourdain and Wood. I would be surprised if the winner is not optimal there. Top dart plays for me, I would say it's Joaquin Buckley.
Gabriel Miranda.
So then Sam always throws his over under on stoppages. So we got 12 fights. His number's not bad here. 6.5. I'm going to say over 6.5 stoppages.
The total volume of our KO odds is 595%, which implies 6. So I'm going to take the slight under. Yeah,
it's Samuel's numbers sometimes are not very good. This one's actually not a bad number, so I'll give him that one.
It's a good line. It's a good line.
Of course, appreciate everyone tuning in here for the strategy show. Of course, coming up next is the MLB strategy show. They'll get you ready for today's slate. Of course, I'll be back here on Saturday with Greg for Live Before Lock, 10 a.m. Eastern time. So appreciate everyone tuning in. Hit that thumbs up button. And of course, leave a comment in the comment section below. It does help us out a lot. Appreciate everyone tuning in. And I will talk to you on Saturday on Live Before Lock.